Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this very special Sunday school class. I've been trying to think of a good name for these things, and I've not thought of one yet. But 4 times a year, we sort of take a break from Sunday school to do what really ends up being kind of a State of the Union discussion about where we are, what's going on. In August, it's a meeting about our fall launch. In January, it's a meeting about sort of our philosophy of ministry and our approach. But in October and April, it's more about where we are, how we doing financially, what's going on with ministry initiatives. And so that's kind of what these videos are. And so today is just one of those days we want to keep things in front of you as much as we can, especially when we're going through a time when we can't meet face to face. Normally we are able to have a lot of time to ask questions and talk about that, but we don't have that benefit this time. So we're just going to launch into some things together. Hey, but while we're at it, I always want to make sure that you know that if you've got anything that you've got questions about or you feel like you're looking for more information on, we are all very much available here to answer any of those questions about what our plans are. And if we don't know what our plans are, we'll tell you that we don't know what our plans are. You'll kind of find as we go through some stuff this morning that there's a lot of situations where we're really uncertain because we don't know exactly what's coming forward. But let's dive into some things. There's a couple of main things I want to talk about. We want to talk about our financial update, first of all. I want to give a little bit of an update on our Rooted campaign, talk a little bit about our summer programming that's coming up this summer, and end with a couple of miscellaneous items as well. So that's kind of how we're going to outline today. Let's dive into some of these financial things. Obviously, we're getting a lot of questions from people about how are we doing financially as a church? Where are we? And I would say simply that considering where we are, we're doing well. Let me tell you how this all sort of came down. Within the first 2 weeks of us canceling our service, the business team met together and started putting together a plan. That obviously involved cutting expenses as much as we could. So any non-personnel or any non-building related expenses were basically cut in order to account what we knew would be an inevitable shortfall in income. Now that may feel a little unsettling to people. Why would there be a shortfall? And of course the answer is, just to give you a little statistic, about 80% of our yearly income to the business of the church comes from the plate being passed on Sunday mornings. So when you don't have Sunday morning worship, then you're just going to have a shortfall. But look, that's to be expected. But I will say this, it's not been the hit that it could have been, given the terribleness of the circumstances. And it turns out that I'm in communication with a lot of good friends who are pastors all over the country of a lot of churches. And it turns out that any shortfall that we're experiencing after a month of this whole thing is very much in line with what sister churches of our size are around the country. I do want to say that I'm very encouraged by the fact that we've had a really good turnaround in our online giving tool. A year and a half ago is when we launched the online giving tool, basically. And that tool has been really great. I realize that for a lot of people that feels really weird to use giving through an app. It's a little too techie, a little too weird. I just want to encourage you that from our perspective, it's actually really helpful when people use that app, because what it does is it creates a consistency in giving. Any church will tell you that giving almost always droops during the summer hours when people are out of town, or summer months when people are out of town. Online giving kind of ensures that you don't get to December and be like, oh, I totally forgot to give in July because we were away all month. And what that helps us do is it means that we budget more wisely. Our fiscal year in the church goes from September to August. And so in the summertime is when we're making a lot of plans about how we're going to allocate resources. And so it really helps us with that online giving tool. Hey, but I want to tell you, lots of you have jumped in on this. A bunch of you have sort of had a big increase in our online giving, which has been so great. We've had a lot of stuff that's been coming through the mail, and every now and then we'll find some people who have dropped some things off at the front door. I just want to encourage you that the online giving tool is really, really good for our church long term. And for those of you that have just started using it and have discovered it, you're going to find that there's a lot of stuff that thing will do, especially in being able to log into your own profile. Go to your little icon up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll see a place where you can click on your profile. In your profile, you can update any spell changes that need to happen, birthdays, anniversaries. You can even, when tax time comes around, download tax statements directly from the app. You're going to find that thing is very versatile and something that really, once you use it, you're going to be really amazed at how helpful it really is. I also want to remind you, we keep saying this, and it's just an important thing to realize, that whenever you use that online giving tool through the app, any donation that you make we've decided over $500, we would ask you that you would use the bank draft option. There's two ways to give online. You can give via credit card, or you can simply have your bank account drafted. Well, if you use the credit card, there's kind of a fairly steep processing fee that gets attached to that, which of course you can cover for yourself, but over $500, it gets kind of expensive. So if you're giving over $500, we ask that you would use the bank transfer. Now, there's a process you got to go through to verify your bank account, but all of the instructions that we have on our giving page on our website will walk you all through that. So watch those little videos to help you navigate that stuff. Again, if this sounds really technical, I promise it's not. But it's great to give your time and help our donation dollars kind of go forward. Okay, so what's the big point from our financial update? The Lord's met our needs, and we're grateful. We are so thankful for this church. I've only been at this for about 2 years, and every time we talk about finances, I'm amazed at how gracious you all are. So thank you for that, and well done, and let's keep going and march through this crisis as best as we can. Which brings me to my second big sort of topic, and that is, where are we on the new building and on our Rooted campaign? Well, as you know by now, our Rooted campaign officially ended on March 31st, just a few weeks ago. And this is kind of my big announcement. I feel like there should be like fireworks going off somewhere on the video at this point. That we were able to raise through the last 3 years. And by the way, this doesn't include the money that we raised to pay off the land when we first purchased it. Just over $3 million for the Rooted campaign, which was exactly what our target was. Look, y'all, this is an astounding feat for a church our size. And so whatever you're doing when you're listening to this, would you just take a moment and pause and just say thank you to the Lord for his provision for us? That's a very big deal. It's something that we can look to him and realize that the faith of the people who began this process some 7 or 8 years ago is now seeing and coming to fruition. That's wonderful to watch that all go down. So how does that go forward? Well, from here on out, we're going to start drawing off of a line of credit once we're through sort of our reserves that we have for the building to see the whole thing to completion, which is very normal. If you'll remember, actually, in this last fiscal year's budget, we actually put some new additions into the line item to basically get us used to paying off some of the interest of that loan, because we needed to get used to the fact that there was going to be an increase when our next budget season would have to be paying the interest on that loan in full. So what you're going to notice in September is a relatively significant increase due to our new note that we're going to be paying off on the loan on the building. And so what that means then is we need our giving to stay what it is as much as possible. And we feel confident as we've watched the numbers over the years that we're going to be able to meet that need, especially as you compare what we've taken in combined with our general fund and our building fund. But again, we feel confident we're going to be able to manage this. As long as we're kind of through this crisis in the next 6 months, we should really be fine through all of that. Now, what that means then is that regular giving to the general fund to the church can kind of return to normal, to what you used to do. I do realize that for the people who started this campaign, this is blasphemy that I'm about to say, but some of you, us maybe, simply took a portion of your regular tithe that you were giving, right? And you designated a chunk of it to the building fund. And actually that was fine, and actually fine to do as much. But I'm also guessing that for many of you, you found that the pledge that you made to the Rooted campaign, it may not have taxed you financially as you thought it would, as much as you thought it would. And so my encouragement to you and to us as a church, coming from the business team and from the session and deacons, is that you continue to give what you can, because we really want to pay this debt off as soon as possible. Why? Because we want to start to dream about phase 2. If all goes to plan and there's motions in place for this, we're hoping in the next 6 months to be able to present to you some very early ideas and sketches from our architects and design team about what phase 2 might look like. And so you'll get some information about that, hopefully, that'll get us realizing that it'll really help us to continue to give to as healthy as we can so that we can pay down this debt and move forward with what we want to do with the mission of this church. Now, does that mean that I can't give to the building fund anymore? Well, of course it doesn't mean that. We're going to keep that fund open for as long as anyone wants to designate money in that direction. But if you're worried about our need, then our general fund is going to be what we budget from this point going forward. Look, when you go into the app and you make a donation, one of the first questions it asks you is which fund you'd like to give to. And you'll see the general fund, that's our operating fund. You'll see the building fund still, but you'll also, by the way, see our benevolence fund. That's money that goes directly to us being able to do works of service in this community, which, by the way, is a lot of things that go on. People don't really realize that we see probably an average of 10 or so walk-ins each week that we try to help out in some way. I think it's safe to say, I've actually heard Kurt say this, that we're a church that's known as a place where you can get some help if you need it. Your benevolence giving goes to that in particular. So just keep that in mind as you look through what those 3 funds are about. So what we also hope that by this time you've received is a password to a video that we put together that sort of gives us a tour of the new building. Look, it's a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun to make. I'm not going to lie to you because you'll see very easily that the building, it's shaping up just to be gorgeous. And so have that out there. Enjoy sort of watching that. If you've not gotten that password, let us know. But that brings us to another topic when it comes to the new building and the Rooted campaign. And that is, what are y'all thinking about how we're going to open this building in the midst of a pandemic and a quarantine? And here's my answer. I don't know. But here's what we're looking at. Here's some things that we're sort of kicking around as leadership of the church. The first one is this. We really do want to do the best that we can to open the building from a position of strength and not a position of weakness. Should we continue to improve and new cases drop in the way in which they hope that they will, and that we can do so without fear of contamination, in other words, as safely as we possibly can, then we would love to open the building as normal. Hopefully sometime in the month of July is what we're sort of looking for. But we are, if that's not the case, and we're still in the same place that we are then as we are now, we're looking for some options. It may be that we delay our opening. It might even be that we sort of stagger our opening so that groups of people can worship together while they're socially distanced. The truth is, I don't know. We need wisdom. But we're trusting a lot in the fact that if we pray and ask the Lord for wisdom, He promises He gives it to us. But we want to let you know that we're aware of that. We're thinking through it. We're working through some of those possibilities. The second thing is, and this is one that I would put just by saying this, I realize that there's a lot of people that are hurting during this time. They're struggling. Some even in our own congregation are experiencing some things that are difficult. You just want to be sensitive to that fact. And you kind of don't want to be the guy that's sort of celebrating, while everybody else is hurting and frustrated and challenged and in a tough place. We're looking into some ways to be able to say to the community that we really want this building to be about service to them and caring for them. And honestly, that's very much in the seedling form right now, but we're aiming towards it. And so again, we're going to ask you that you would pray for that as well. Third thing is this: if this quarantine persists, we're all in agreement that we're not leaving this place until we've had at least one more worship service here. We actually still have on the books for June the 10th a cookout that we want to have here right in the back with, hey, Thomas, we're looking at you to have the grill out and a big event. But again, just the quarantine is going to determine whether we can do that. But here's the deal. The next time we meet will not be in the new building. We're going to be back here together because it's just important for us to sort of say thank you to this place that's been so important to us. 1720 University Avenue. That's the place where so many of you came to know the Lord in the first place. I guarantee for a lot of you, it's where you where you built a community of people that love and care about you. Some of you met your spouses here. It's important for us to express our thanks to this place, I think, to make this transition. Okay, so that's our report that we've got on all the building stuff going on. I realize there's a lot of things happening, but we want to keep you updated on all that stuff. So let's talk about the summer. And what are we doing for summer plans at this point? Well, the word at this point in April is a lot up in the air. Let's start first of all with our big summer youth trips called RYM. RYM is called Reformed Youth Ministries. It's a bunch of summer conferences that happen for a week where we send our junior high and our senior high. RYM is a very big deal and a very helpful part of our summer youth program. And I can tell you, as of this to date, RYM has not made a decision about what they're going to do about their conferences because they don't want to do them if they can't do them safely. But you got to hear me. Like, we want to do this very badly. I think I can speak for the entire youth group that they really want to do this. But we got to remain safe. So could you pray about that? That's one of those that would be yet another disappointment that we just don't want to have people mess with. Second thing, Vacation Bible School. That also is up in the air. And I'll tell you kind of where we are. One of the things that people don't realize about Vacation Bible School is you have to order the materials that it takes to put that whole event on pretty much in advance. And so we actually have to make a decision. I say we. The children's ministry team has to make a decision actually by this coming week as to whether or not they're going to have VBS with the curriculum they had decided on. So where does that leave us for Vacation Bible School? We don't know. If for some reason, though, we have to cancel, that team is already working on sort of a secondary option, maybe some take-home projects that would provide Bible activities that you could do on a daily basis on your own, with your own family. I know that's not ideal, but we're kind of hoping for a something is better than nothing kind of thing if that happens. But again, we'll keep you posted and let you know just as soon as possible about what happens with Vacation Bible School. Next thing is, don't forget about our Read Through the Bible app. It's called Reading Scripture. If you haven't heard about this, a bunch of folks in our church kind of decided we would scoop up this app that was developed by our friends at the Bible Project and just kind of jump in April for our April readings. I think right now we're in the book of Isaiah. And basically, it allows you to work through the Bible in a year using their app. It's really great because the Bible Project has made all these wonderful videos that you can watch that walk you through the action or the story or the message of a particular book of the Bible before you start to read about it. And man, it helps your Bible reading so much. Next thing on our list is basically to say to our high school seniors, y'all, I'm so sorry. Man, this was not the hand that you wanted to be dealt with, and it's understandable that you'd be upset, maybe even at God's providence, at how this has affected you. I do want to say to all of our church, let's be compassionate for our seniors, whether it's from Ole Miss or from Oxford High School. It's a tough time, and we're sorry, and nobody asked for this, and here we are. But I will say this, our youth team is planning something special for you in the month of May that'll at least try to communicate to you guys just how important you are to us, and that we understand that this has been a tough time. So be watching for some of those things coming out. Next is our women's ministry team. We're really excited that they've been hard at work over putting together a book study that'll launch this summer. It's called Steadfast, a devotional journey through the book of James by Courtney Doctor, who's fast becoming one of our favorite women's ministry teachers. This is going to have Zoom small groups that'll break out, and Anna's going to have all of our information about that coming up at anna@cpcoxford.org. So listen for that. That's going to start up in May, and there'll be tons of stuff to talk about. Finally, Sunday school. What are we going to do about Sunday summer school? Sunday school in the summer. It's a tongue twister there. Obviously, some of that's up in the air about how we're going to do it. If we can meet together, we'll have these classes offered here. If not, it'll probably be coming to you by video. But we're going to have two offerings this time. The first one is going to be a series that we started last summer through church history. Ligonier Ministries produces these things, and look, they are wonderful. If you've never done a guided tour through church history, you need to, because it'll help you realize that God's been at work through a lot of treacherous times in history, and He's brought His people safe thus far. So a study through church history will give you sort of a sense of the big picture of how God's been at work. It's incredibly encouraging. The second class is going to be offered over a little book called You Never Stop Being a Parent by Jim Neuheiser and Elise Fitzpatrick. This is a great little book. It's a book that sort of is kind of like a whole life approach to parenting. In the hectic nature of child rearing, you kind of strive for the time in which they're finally going to be out of the door. But as anybody sort of had their kids kind of move off for college and otherwise, there's a special yearning that comes from those times when all those things look back and realize that my relationship to my children is really changing. And you know what? The relationship to your spouse also changes during that time as well. Empty nest is no joke. And so you've got to begin to prepare for that when your children are young. So basically, it's going to be sort of a breakout class on parenting. It's going to have lots of great stuff. Go purchase that book now if you want to and start reading ahead so we can be ready for that class this summer. So that's the activities for summer. What did I forget?
No, just June 7th is when summer starts.
Oh, sorry. June 7th is the date when summer starts. Again, you've got an assistant here off camera who's helping me through all this stuff. All right. So let's go the last thing to our miscellaneous updates about where we are with staff. First of all, I want to go on record as saying that Luke Jones and Susanna Levy in our administration office have just been miraculous. One of the reasons why there's been a seamlessness about information and about updates about finances is because those two have just hit the ground running. I could really bore you with some of the updates that have happened on the administrative side, but I'm not going to do it. But needless to say, go say thanks to Susanna. If you see her sometime soon, drop her a note or drop a note to Luke here in the office. They have been fantastic. We're up and running very well. We also want to give you a report on our coming worship arts director. Remember, back in January, we actually made an offer and hired Mr. Randall Bryant. And so he's been, as our new worship arts director, will have his first day here on June the 1st. So Randall and his lovely wife, Alyssa, and their two lovely children, Lord willing, will be moving to town the first week of June. Randall's been really hard at work finishing up his contract at the school that he teaches in, as well as spending a lot of time online and on the phone with realtors, working for a house search here in town. And they believe that they found one. So as those processes are going along, continue to pray for him. But we're so looking forward to having him in town. And we'll probably be putting something together as a way of welcoming Randall into town. And boy, if you'd love to be a part of that, give us a call here at the church or drop us an email. We'd love to have you be a part of our welcome to Randall as he comes in town. Some people have asked, like, okay, what's a worship arts director going to do? Well, the first main thing that he does, he's going to take over all of our Sunday morning preparation. He's going to put together the order of worship. He'll be in charge of all of our musicians, both in the recruitment and the training of them. He'll be arranging all of our music for Sunday mornings. He'll be the new chairman of our exaltation team to expand its influence and start to involve other people in the process of our worship. Randall's going to be involved in sort of seeing our church become a center for the arts as it reaches out into our community in many ways. He'll also be helping do long-range planning for weekly services along with me as we put that together. He's going to be busy this summer, sort of becoming proficient in our new sound system, training another army of folks to help run the board on Sundays when our regular sound person can't be there. So all that to say, there's a lot that's going to be going on with Randall that he jumps into, and little did he know that he'd be coming into it during a time of a pandemic. So be praying for Randall. Hey, I know that was a lot. I know we had a lot to kind of go through, but this is really important for us that on a regular basis, we're updating you with things that are going on with us. And so just keep these things in prayer. I know we're at a time where things are awkward, they're weird, we're not together like we wish we could be. But I want us to continue to remember that we're praying for one another. We're praying for you. We're doing the best that we can to offer services out there. And on the other side of this crisis, there's going to be some rejoicing. And we're going to celebrate together like we never have because God has brought us safe thus far. So we look forward to talking to you soon. And let me pray for us as we finish. Lord Jesus, give us grace as we go now into worship or into our day, whatever it is that we're doing. We pray that you would give us grace to be able to see your church at work, even when we don't actually see it face to face or in the faces of each other. Give us grace, Father, in all these initiatives. We need so much wisdom. But you said you would give it to those who ask. So we ask that you would grant it. For we ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.